Welcome back, friends. There are a few issues I want to discuss with you today. As you know, there is the so-called peace talks that is taking place between the United States and Iran. For the United States, peace means Iran must surrender. For Iran, peace means United States and Israel should stop attacking Iran and, by extension, other Arab countries in the region. While this is going on, there is a lot of speculation as to what Trump means by peace, as to whether the peace is achievable, whether Iran actually wants peace or wants an excuse to continue to make or refine uranium in order to make an atom bomb. This speculation is then further muddied by the talk of whether America controls Israel or whether Israel controls America. And in the midst of it, what is lost is the basic intention of the United States and Israel. For the United States, the objective is to reestablish US hegemony, which was established very briefly at the end of the Cold War for a period of a few years, where the US was the ruler or the hegemon of the post-Cold War period. Whereas for Israel, it's about its expansion. It's about the creation of greater Israel. And this Prime Minister Netanyahu has openly talked about in terms of redrawing the borders of West Asia. And the intention, obviously, is to create greater Israel ruling over the land between the Nile and the Euphrates. It is these basic objectives that one must look at to understand what does it mean to talk about peace. And in this amalgam, one has to also take into account the role of Europe. For Europe, for a long time, they had relied on the United States to provide the military umbrella for Europe's post-colonial and the neo-colonial arrangements that they had made in Asia and Africa. On the other hand, we have the situation in Ukraine, where again Europe has a hand. And in Ukraine, again, there is talk of peace with Russia. And in Ukraine, what does peace with Russia mean? On the face of it, Washington might claim peace with Russia means end of the invasion of Ukraine and the withdrawal of the Russian army to the pre-2023 borders. Sorry, pre-2021 borders. But beyond that, what is the actual intention? And which is something that the US leadership has clearly stated. The intention is to overthrow the present leader of Russia, Vladimir Putin, and further to break up Russia into its component parts, the European, the Siberian, and the Asian parts, and therefore make available the vast resources of Russia to Western multinationals. Now, these two may appear to be unconnected, the war against Iran and the war against Russia. And here we must remember the so-called war in Ukraine is really a facade, a pretext under which the West is attacking Russia. Now, what is the connection between the war against Russia and war against Iran? The connection, I would suggest, is that both wars are necessary staging posts. Both wars are necessary to build up towards the final target, which is China. Naturally, China is not going to sit around waiting for the United States to come to Beijing. Earlier on, China began getting closer to Russia, and then in the war in Ukraine, China has been known to supply some military equipment and technology. Similarly, China is assisting Iran, and it is assisting Iran in very crucial ways, providing satellite technology, providing state-of-the-art intelligence in order to help Iran use its missiles very effectively. And already the US administration has complained that Iran is helping, that Beijing is helping Tehran, and therefore thereby prolonging the war. Not that the US is prolonging the war, but China is prolonging the war. But of course, from China's point of view, as I said, it's not going to sit around waiting for the United States to come to Beijing after finishing off Tehran and Moscow. It is this three-sided battle that one has to understand behind this facade or this game of smoke and mirrors about peace talks. And as I said, peace is what is claimed to be the aim. But what is actually going on, as I said, are two objectives. One, to reestablish the United States as the unchallenged hegemon of the world. And secondly, to facilitate Israel's ambition to build its greater Israel nation. Where does that leave us all? Us meaning in the global majority. It is necessary that we begin to understand and look beyond the talk of establishing peace, but actually see that our task is to expose the imperialist design of the United States and the greater Israel ploy of Tel Aviv. Which means that it is necessary not to be distracted by peace talks, but actually expose them as merely a distraction which we should not be influenced by. In that situation, today we have the United States, while talking of peace, while offering a ceasefire, has also imposed a naval blockade on Iran. As you know, naval blockade in international law is an act of war. But having imposed a naval blockade, the United States is insisting that Iran should accept the 15 points that the US had proposed for the resolution of the war between Iran and the United States. And of course, the 15 points essentially means Iran has to surrender. And in turn, Iran has submitted 10 points, which of course ensures that Iran will be free of aggression in the future. Now, coming back to the question of the naval blockade, what the United States is doing is by blocking the exit and entry into the Persian Gulf. The United States is hoping to spread the pain of Iran's control of the Strait of Hormuz, spread the pain to other parts of the world, to Asia, to Africa, and to Latin America. And the intention is that the global majority, that is, people in these three continents, that the global majority would then turn against Iran. But that is not happening, because the global majority clearly sees that Iran is the victim, that Iran is actually struggling to survive this imperialist onslaught by the United States and Israel. As a result, the United States is now actually deepening the crisis, because as the crisis prolongs, it's very possible Ansar Allah in Yemen may join the battle and start blocking the Red Sea and, of course, through it, the Suez Canal, which would then fundamentally transform the world economy, meaning not for the better, but for the worst. And if Ansar Allah also enters the fray and begins to block the Suez Canal, because the United States has imposed an illegal blockade on Strait of Hormuz, the situation is expected to get worse. Let us watch how the events evolve, friends, and let's meet again a few days later to assess the situation. Thank you very much for being with me, and please like and subscribe, and goodbye.